So Uni 2 is gonna be popular because everybody loves fucking Uni 1. Everyone's like, oh, the game aesthetic is so cool, the characters are so cool, the music's really good, the gameplay's really good and intuitive, the mechanics are really fun. And now people will be like, oh, I can play the game online, the rollback's gonna be great, this game's gonna be fantastic. And people would be like, man, why isn't Type Lumina getting updates when it's like, well, they were making Type Lumina and fucking Uni 2 at the same time. So now that Type Lumina is more or less done for right now, they'll probably just do like, maybe next year they'll do system changes, maybe character tuning. They might do that. It might add another character or two, but we don't know yet, obviously. But everyone's saying like, oh yeah, Melty's had nothing since May, and it's like, yeah, that was like 6 months ago, and that was also more free DLC. All the DLC the games Melty's giving you is for free. Most likely Uni's not going to be free. Most likely you're going to have to pay for Uni, which is, that's fine. People are willing to pay for the game. But I still think the biggest reason why Type Lumina it was probably fine, but it could have did better in terms of like people actually wanting to play is the first 2 months, 3 months was not great because everyone's still learning how the system works. Everyone's like, oh, shield's broken. And, when you when people parrot something that's easy to say but don't do any further investigation, it kind of makes it hard for more people to want to play because they think, oh, blocking the game is bad. The offense in the game is bad because there's a lot of defensive mechanics, and then it turns into like, oh, well, you can actually blow up a lot of defensive mechanics, so the game is actually still bad because it means you can't block because you just get option selected constantly. When both are true, you can get option selected, but it doesn't cover everything. It's just a lot of people have this notion that Melty is like, oh, it's gonna be this filler for Uni, mostly because everyone talked shit about Type Lumina for the first few months. When now Type Lumina is in a really good place, but it's gonna be hard to recover people saying like, "Oh, Lamal, you just play Vlav, Lamal." When at some point in this game's lifespan, it's gonna be, "Oh, just play." I think Batista's still gonna be strong, unless they take away more of her shit. But she's still gonna be strong. People are gonna be like, "Lamal, just play Batista." That's what's gonna turn into. Most likely, but it won't really. It'll just be like all the people who don't understand the game saying that shit. But I do think it just stems from people being like, oh, Melty's the meme game with the cat and Echo Arc, because a lot of people who don't... You have to understand that when people don't play a game but see something that's a meme, they'll associate the meme more than anything and just be like, oh, that meme's funny, but they won't actually help... what's it called? Help get the game to take off? That's the wrong string of words. They won't help push the game to other people who might be interested outside of like the funny meme, right? Because some people might be interested, but if they see the meme, they're also like, oh, this meme is fucking whack. They won't play it. So it kind of turned into that, like, Neko Arc's a meme. A lot of people like, I like the funny cat. Oof, smoked. And unfortunately, that's kind of where I feel like the game is right now, outside of people who are playing it who are just good, who understand fighting games pretty well. And a lot of people are just using TL as a substitute for not playing Uni because Uni's online right now is not good until Uni 2 comes out. So a lot of people are just playing Melty, and a lot of people stop playing. So, especially because everyone will be like, oh, Evo, it's not doing well. It doesn't get past like 500, 600 entrants. When it's like, most games don't get 200 entrants, 100 entrants at other tournaments. So it's like, I don't see what the issue is here. People just spinning this shitty narrative. Which sucks because you want everyone to say like, oh man, French Bread makes great games, but then you have to go and tell people like, hey, not everything's created equal. The fan bases have different opinions on what they like, which is fine, but people aren't as subjective in terms of their fighting game. Why did I say all this? Oh, probably because I think this game is just gonna do better than Melty off the sheer will of the fact that there are so many people who just like Under Night for some reason. Like, I gave the reasons earlier, but it still doesn't make sense to me considering this game doesn't have any predecessor prior, other than like, oh, French Bread makes this game and they made Melty Blood, and almost everyone knows Melty Blood in some degree, right? So they're like, oh, this is like Melty Blood without air dashes. That's kind of what people will say to you. but there's no, people won't have a way to say like, oh, this game has cursed, what's it called? Melty has this reputation of like, people say they say it's a hentai game because the visual novel has, I don't want to say pornographic, but it's essentially pornographic. It has pornographic scenes in it. Throw teching. And people kind of just meme on that. They also meme that the original Tsukihime anime is fucking god awful because of the animation and the quality. Jesus, you just want to do that, huh? Okay. So there's like a lot of memes associated with it, whereas Under Night doesn't have those memes other than like the one thing associated with Eltonum. Outside of that, though, game's pretty solid in terms of just people just saying like, oh, everyone says this is a good game. Like everyone just says Under Night's a good game, and there's no rhyme or reason to it. They just say it's a good game, and everyone just kind of agrees with it. Like, yeah, it's a good game. I'm not saying that like, oh, they're lying. I'm saying I don't understand where that general consensus came from. Probably because people would play it and say like, yeah, Under Night's a good game, and then people would try to get into it. But yeah, that's my rambling. Like, I think this game will be more popular than Melty only because people have had enough Melty. Do you think it's gonna be hyped like it was in 2019? Probably. Probably more. Because the game has good netcode now, right? Or Uni 2 will have good netcode. God willing. God, please don't fuck this up. But if Uni 2 has netcode that's a little bit better than what we had at the beta, this game's gonna be mad popular, and it's only going to be because everybody who didn't play because of delay-based netcode and was already playing Uni will be like, I like this game way more now that the netcode works. It doesn't matter like how much they get beat up by a certain character, how much they see of a certain character, what people say about it, they're just gonna be like, this game's fucking tight. And like I said earlier, the consensus that this game is just good came out of nowhere in 2018, and it kind of stuck, which is great, which is nice because Uni does well at every. Uni usually does better than Melty at every tournament nowadays. Outside of like Evo, I think, yeah, outside of like Evo. But that was Evo. I'm pretty sure if Uni got into like Uni is most likely going to be at Evo in next year. Because it's already in Evo Japan, so most likely it'll be at Evo proper. And I'm okay with that. Like, yeah, I wish I could have Melty as there as well, but I kind of understand why Melty's not going to be there, only because it's a quote-unquote numbers thing. That's just it. If French Bread can manage to get 2 games up there because one is supported by Type Moon and the other one is just by French Bread, that'd be sick. That'd be fucking tight. Like, French Bread is like, gee, how come you get to have 2 games up there, you know? Raito and Kamone and the French Bread crew have done a lot to make sure that people understand how they develop their games, that they have constant community interactions. Like, Kamone is constantly on Twitter, not constantly, but he's on Twitter more often than not talking about like, oh, hey, I'm going to go here for this event, or hey, I'm also learning English, or hey, I like watching other people play this game. Like, it's they do way more, at least Kamone, he does way more community interfacing than a lot of other devs do. Like Bandai Namco, when Dragon Ball was happening, they were very sparse and like, oh, rollback. That took like 2 years for a beta. Who develops fucking Granblue? Yeah, Side Games, yeah, excuse me, Side Games. They can do whatever the fuck they want because they just have buckets of money. So even if they don't interact, they'll just get shit done. Capcom started being way more community driven since the start of the pandemic because they realized like, hey, Street Fighter V had a lot of issues, so we're trying to fix a lot of shit before we get to 6. And they did that. They did that pretty successfully. Tekken 8, they're kind of doing that. They're showing more trailer stuff. They had that whole thing for the Evo players, even though it was kind of scuffed. I kind of wish that was done a little bit better, but it was a little scuffed. MK, Mortal Kombat is Mortal Kombat. It did pretty well about like, hey, here's this trailer. Hey, here's like 2. They had like 2 or 3 interviews about the game, or was it just 2 interviews? I forget. Like, it didn't feel like it was very involved. for the most part. Like the game just like happened. Like there was a beta. There's like 2 betas and the game just happened. You know, KOF, SNK. They're SNK's been doing a lot more with KOF because that's their flagship game. Obviously, is it? That might be false. If KOF's SNK's flagship or not, I don't remember. But it's like one of the biggest brands, if not the biggest. So they made sure 15 got constant, like, okay, hey, we're going to talk about 15 as much as we can, with updates and more artists giving insight to how they want the characters to look. Here's some ways to play characters. Here's information about new events. And they just like retweet that shit. I'm missing a developer. Side games. No, I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Like French bread is there, but hopefully when Uni 2, like hopefully within the next few weeks they drop more stuff about Uni 2, about like system mechanics and shit, which would be cool because you get videos and stuff like that. The U Melty has been a reputation of being crazy, broken in a good way, also Kusige, blah blah blah. Where crazy enough things are mashed together in the way. On the other hand, Uni has more serious, mature perception of mechanics. It's funny because at some points, Uni, you just fucking die. Like, especially in this version now. In this version of Uni 2, it's like, oh cool, you know, your mechanic is you play this tug of war. That's, you know, that's a lot of reading the situation, how to get this mechanic, right? But then you get the mechanic and it's like, okay, you get more damage. Did you veil off? Cool, you have more damage topped on that. Are they grid broken? You have more damage on top of that. So there's like, it gets kind of silly because like the average damage is higher, IW damage is higher, your big super, that damage is higher. So it's like, there's instances where you just could fucking die in 2 interactions. Or 2 combos, you just fucking die. If like, you get hit wrong once and then they have veil off, celestial, shit like that. Like, I understand because, you know, Melty's an air dashing game, so shit's just flying all over the screen, and a lot of people contribute that to being wacky. Like, if you have air dashes, your game is wacky. And if your game doesn't have all those crazy movement and air dash stuff, your game is less wacky. When it's like, no, Under Night can still be fucked up because it's got a ton of moves that just kind of like say, hey, you can't do shit about this, or hey, this turns into an instant, you need to be right or else you die. And they kind of gave more characters more of that shit in this game. Even though everybody got 2 moves, it seems to be faster. Like, those 2 moves seem to accelerate everyone's game plan quicker. If any French bread game got non-zero marketing, they would insanely be popular. People, he got exposed. Oh, that's not entirely true. Oh, you mean like his music and shit? Maybe. Like, maybe if French bread was just like, hey, check out how we made this music, and they just put out like a 5-minute video on Twitter and sent it to YouTube, maybe people would do that. But it's like, marketing is hard because marketing in Japan it only goes to a certain point, and the marketing in the West is really hard because fighting games are not popular in the West. Even though people will be like, oh, but I see these people play X games, like fighting games are still not popular in the West. It's still a very hard. Like, Street Fighter is the only one because it's fucking Capcom, and they now have money. They used to not have money before, but now they have money to just kind of like do shit and have billboards, have buses, have TV streams and shit like that. Or TV advertisements, excuse me. Yeah, it's a lot of mechanics management in Under Night. Whereas in Melty, it's like, the mechanics they're just there. They just exist, for the most part. In Under Night, you don't get them until the thing happens, right? So it's like, okay, you're fighting for Vorpal. Vorpal doesn't happen until, I forget what the timer is, like 12 seconds, 13 seconds now? They sped up the Vorpal timer. So it's like, you have to wait that long before that thing happens. And when that thing happens, all right, cool. Hyde has more damage, has access to meter, has access to time stop. And he doesn't because he got grid broken. So now he's going to eat 10% more damage because if you get grid broken, you now eat 10% more damage. And he just fucking swung with like an 8-frame move. All right, cool, bro. You're moderately excited about Uni 2. Character system changes look fun. There's not too many system changes, but like it's just enough for a lot of people who didn't play Clear to think that it's a completely new game. When in reality, if you go from Clear to this version of this game, it's like it's like tweaked in enough of a way to make it feel like a new game. Straight through. Did they change their unique moves using grid? They have Vorpal traits. So essentially, characters have different Vorpal traits. So like Hyde, when he gets Vorpal, his sword normals, all his sword normals, and I think all his special moves just do more chip damage than normal. Because he already does chip with his sword, so his chip damage is enhanced. So blocking him for a long time becomes more precarious, because at a certain point he'll throw you if you're in a corner, and throw lets him like cheat the timer, well, quote unquote cheat. It lets him kind of take more time off the timer to see if he can get Vorpal, so he can keep his trait, so he can do more chip, so he can force you into that situation even more. So the Vorpal, his Vorpal trait helps his game plan. And other characters have shit like that too. Like, what's his name? Gordo, his Rusty Nail gets bigger, so he kind of controls a larger space on the screen. I actually forgot everybody's Vorpal traits. A lot of people's Vorpal traits. I need to like go back and look at it. But everybody's force functions are the same, except if you got a new force function. If you got a new force function, then it's like you got another force function that helps you do something. Like right there, that move that Wagner did. This move, that's a force function. That's 6/6 B plus C. So a lot of characters got a 6/6 B plus C, or a 2 B plus C, or a new air B plus C. So it's another way you could be like, oh, look at that. You know, they added another move. But you have to remember, if you use your force function, you actually eat up 2 blocks of grid. Is it 2 blocks or 1 block? Like, you're sacrificing your grid to do like more damage, control a bigger portion of the screen, etc. Like, you're using a tool that requires resource, that requires you to be careful about your resource, because then you lose system mechanic in a sense. You don't lose it, but like, you won't get Vorpal, and Vorpal is something everybody wants all the time. Moondrive had a bad rep at first, but they balanced it after a while. Vorpal seems more failed because it's earned. Yeah, that's what people think. So if you think about it, Vorpal is a more controlled Moondrive. However, only one person gets it, which people will say, oh yeah, that's fair. But then you think about it, it's like, what if you had a Moondrive that gave you a new trait, more damage, access to a time stop in a lot of situations, and granted you more meter, but you were the only one who got it, right? With their thought with Moondrive, they're like, oh yeah, both people can get it, but there's multiple ways to lose the ability to do Moondrive. Like with Moondrive, if you get space, if they like press B plus C for whatever reason, you could retreat and drain their Moondrive by pressing down in A plus B. Like, I know a lot of people don't remember that. Like, you can actually drain someone's Moondrive by pressing down A plus B when they activate. And if they can't catch you, they just lose a bunch of moon gauge real quickly. And they lose the system mechanic for quite some time. But the idea with Moondrive is that, like, during certain actions, you could be like, okay, I fucked up, or hey, my movement was real bad, let me fix that. But you don't get that back for quite some time if you don't dump the moon gauge real quickly. Here it's like, Vorpal, you can lose Vorpal by getting grid broken, or getting hit by Vorpal, a Veil off. But that's, you know, you need meter for that, they need to fuck up something, and that doesn't happen a lot. But I do see your point. Because everyone said, oh, Moondrive is just degenerate because everybody has it, when it's like, nah, Vorpal is also pretty degenerate if you think about it. But it's only because one person gets it. Like, people are more okay with it. But having Vorpal means that you have to constantly be like, okay, are they going to do wake up chain shift when I do press something really bad? Like, there's a big gap in something, they chain shift, they kill me. So like, your game plan has to change when Vorpal happens, because do you die if they chain shift through something? Do you lose a shit ton of momentum? Does the combo that you're about to do on you do enough damage for them to kill you? Does the meter they get, like, there's a lot of thinking with it. Oh god. And I know a lot of people are going to be really confused as to how to manage the system mechanic. Like Vorpal, they're like, oh, should I always fight for Vorpal? Should I always charge for grid? Should I always be shielding? Should I always be trying to throw them? Should I try to just tech their throw? You know, should I be trying to stagger my pressure so they get a lot of green shields and bleed grid? There's like a high level that all that comes into play. But a lot of people don't care about high level, they just care about mashing, right? So a lot of people who just care about mashing will just be like, oh, that's funny, or they won't completely understand how Vorpal is, how strong Vorpal is, but it's fine. If you haven't found it, it doesn't really matter. Unnecessary. Which game do you think is more aesthetically pleasing? Which game is more aesthetically pleasing to me? I'm probably gonna say it's probably going to be Uni 2, but that's not fair, because like, I feel like they use Type Lumina as a way to be like, okay, let's get like some of the stuff down for Uni, because like a lot of stuff looks cleaner in this game. When you get Vorpal, you get the cut-ins. Like there's more cut-ins, but it's weird. I think I like Melty. Do I like my Melty more? I think I like Melty more because Under Night more because there's more hit sparks. There's a lot more effects on stuff for characters. Like the fire, like that fire is just like it's plentiful. That shit just happens. What else is there? Like you see all the stuff Wagner's doing. There's like weird red hit effects that engulf her and stuff, and like that's cool. Melty doesn't have too much of that with special moves. Like some special moves that just get hit. It's real quick. It's like really satisfying because it's quick. In this game, it's like it's slower, but it has more things to look at that make it more pleasing. People just spam moon skills. Seems like it doesn't happen now. Wondering if it's just the matter of their system mechanics. Mechanics getting updated. It's more like people finally understand how this stuff works. Like people still use moon skills pretty frequently, but the people who are good at the game will be like, "Oh, did you do a moon skill and you clash? Cool, or you just die." Or I know the counterplay to this now. Like it was a lot of people not understanding counterplay, so it wasn't developed right away, so it was kind of hard to get people to understand that. So a lot of people were just like, "Oh yeah, you just spam this and you win." You know how it's like in it's like how people say, "Oh, just play Luke and you'll win. Play JP and you'll win." Because they have like one strong thing. It's not that simple. Like the thing is strong, but there's counterplay. Hey, smoked. You like TL stages more? I think it's because you've already seen the uni stages before, and they just for most of the uni stages they changed the tint to be a little bit darker and changed some of the color to be darker. Whereas TL stages are brand new. So all the stages for TL are brand new, so they got to do that shit and be like, okay, we can just make new stages. So I think that's why a lot of people like TL stages more, but I like uni because it fits the uni aesthetic because like, shit's happening at night. And shit at night has different colors, or stuff is more shadier, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is there so much fog? Why is this red? Why is this like dark blue? Why is this purple? Stuff like that. That's why I think uni theme fits it really well, but TL has new stages. It has completely new stages you haven't seen before. The only thing you don't like about TL is the effects. They are very plain with just solid colors. They look worse than CC. Very plain with solid colors. I guess, but it's like worse. Not worse like they're bad. It's like worse like compared to Uni. Uni, they have so many effects and shit, which kind of hurts your eyes sometimes because you're always looking at effects. Whereas TL is like there's not that many effects all the time, which is nice because stuff lingers in this game. Like when you get grid broken, you get the purple glass breaking and it's fucking bright as shit. Because it's a little hard on the eyes sometimes. Whereas Type Lumina is kind of a lot more consolidated, so there's not much shit flashing at you constantly.